folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we got a great show for you with the celebration of a new year just for you. What's up? David Null, my co-host, Hawkeye Two Feathers. Thank you for being here tonight.
Greetings and blessings, everyone, and Happy New Year. 2 hours early for the Eastern Coast. We greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator as always. And we always hope that you're doing the best that you can in your life and that you're as healthy as possible. And Happy New Year. Let's start out a new one. And for tonight, we also we're starting a new storybook. And this got some good stories in it. So we're going to be breaking out a new storybook for the first of the year. So hang on with us, and we'll get to it in a little bit. And of course, I'll pull a couple of cards.
Yep, sounds great. Yep. Thank you everybody for joining us. Chris Smith's in the house. Hildaberry and Lucky Stone. Happy winter celebration. The joyous end to 2024 and a prosperous 2025 to you all, he says. There you go. So, and Elderberry, Happy New Year. And Christmas, Happy New Year to you too. Nicholas Burnett, Happy New Year. There you go. Happy New Year, tribe. Yes. Thank you all for being here tonight. Celebrate New Year's Eve with us. You people on the west or the east coast, you'll get it first because as we end the show, it'll be New Year's. Yeah. Right? Probably real close to it. Either way. So anyway, with that said, we got a good memories of last year, this year, next year, and in between. A little reminiscing. This year, we just have to bow our heads a little bit for Dalibor Succi, who passed and left us this year, and Scratch. Those were the good guys that tuned in all the time and were on the show and things like that. And we're going to miss them as they don't make another trip around the sun, but they're going to a better place. They're probably sitting there watching us right now. So there we go.
Yeah, giving us critiques.
That's right.
Liven up your show a little bit, y'all.
Yep. But I'm sure there's other people who have passed, and I think you probably all know somebody who's crossed over to the other side this year. So think a little bit about them, and think about you're out here making a difference and experiencing life yet, and your torture is not over yet. you got a little more torture to go, right?
Yep. So I was listening to something today, and it was like, and this person had just lost a good friend, and of course they were mourning about it, but the problem was that it was like a month later and they still were sitting in a chair and they wouldn't open the drapes and everything. And another friend came over and said, "You have got to snap out of this." "Oh, but he's dead and I won't see him again." And he said, "Yeah, but you're still alive and you still have so much potential." Mm-hmm. And it was, "You have so much potential." And she was like, "What do you mean? You're still alive. This person's dead. Their story's ended. You're still writing your story." That's so, right. Keep that in mind. Yeah, to all the people who have passed before us, their story has ended in this realm. But we're still here and we're still kicking. So we are still writing our story, our history. So let's look forward to it. Everybody's got sort of most folks. There's still some folks on the left that are a little bit of brain dead. But, for the rest of us, we have had a sigh of relief. There's a potential in the air. Do we know what's actually going to come? No, but the potential is there for all kinds of stuff to happen. So I'm praying for the potential, buddy. Come on, potential.
That's right. If we quit, experience in life, our book might as well be ended if you're just going to sit there and stare at the curtains because somebody else's book is ended. Just you got to keep moving and writing your story. I like that idea. There's Scotty Boy. He's still writing his story.
But also to look forward to writing the story. Not to be upset. Well, I don't know what I'm going to write. I don't, but look forward to like, I wonder what kind of adventure I can get into this year so I can write more in my story. So anyway, keep that in mind. Don't be depressed. You're still writing your story.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's the thing. We're still writing our story. And while you're still kicking, you got to make a difference. You have the ability to learn. I was doing some research for the next Saturday show, and it was talking about, we have to, it was talking about, the Jesus resurrection thing. And it was saying that you can't do your resurrection after you're dead. You have to do it before you die. And I kind of thought about that for a while. And I was like, you're right. You can't be resurrecting yourself when you're dead. Your story, you nailed it. The story's over for you. You're too late. Right?
Yep. In this realm, it is,
Yeah.
Don't know what it's like on the other side as far. Well, there's a potential there too, but all I know is that the feeling seems good for a good potential. So come on, 2025. I never thought I would live this long. Good.
Yeah. Oh, I remember back in the day, it was, how am I, to live, because I remember, I'm old too. So, I'm watching Back to the Future, and they're going to 2015 or something like that, where they got flying cars. And, this is back in the 80s and, 1985. And I'm thinking, yeah, someday I'll be around when those flying cars are flying around. I'll be like Back to the Future people. And, we'd all dress up like Back to the Future guys and wear the vest and put on those funky glasses and, whatever. But anyway, the point is that we're past 2015. We're way past 2015. Now we're 10 years. Yes, we're 10 years. We are living in the future. Robots are a common thing. Computers, common thing. All of that stuff that was in that movie, has been done. Even the flying cars, they got kind of a flying car with, drones, kind of thing. But still, the point is that somebody thought of it and then they created it. They were remember in the Back to the Future movie, they've talked about the jets, or not the Jetsons, the weather, and old Doc, he gets out of the car and he goes, I think this is Back to the Future 2. Yeah. And he gets out of the car and it's raining and he goes, wait a minute, Marty, wait a minute. It's going to stop right now. Oh, they got that weather predicted right down to the last second, don't they? And the rain just stopped and the sun came out. And I thought, back then we just thought, wow, that's really cool. But today we look back at that, we go, that's weather manipulation, isn't it?
Weather modification, y'all.
Yeah. But now we look back at that things, we really see what they were trying to tell us. So with that, what do you think the Indians were seeing? They were having visions, of the future. Was it a Crazy Horse or whatever? He had visions of the future where he dreamt that in one of his what do you call it? He went in the wigwam and he smoked the peyote and whatever. And he came out of there and said, he's seen ribbons all over the country. and people were driving or sitting in and riding in ladybugs, and things like that. And how right he was. Ribbons were the highways and ladybugs were the cars on the highways. And so it kind of makes all that sense. Who says he didn't see the future? He did. He's seen the future. I mean, now that we're living in the future, we can put the puzzle pieces together. There's plenty other people out there who predicted the future, and I hope some of their predictions aren't quite right. But the point is, I think there was more predictions done by the natives than we have ever heard been wrote down, because I think some of those great chiefs had their own visions. They were very reluctant to go to war with the whites, the white man, because of the fact that they knew something was over the horizon, and that the white men was more powerful than they were. And they were right. I mean, they're living on the plains, and they're like, a handful of them come to attack them. They got, a little more sophisticated weapons by the guns that they were using. And they just, they didn't realize how many there were. Remember that one that sent his, the chief went back and he says, I'm going to carve a notch on a stick for every white man that I see, or something like that. Well, the stick was full, and then he comes back and he says, there's more white men than the leaves on the tree and the grass on the ground. They have ships that can carry, 500 men, canoes that were 500 men. They have buildings, huge buildings as big as a mountain, and he tells all this stuff. And they couldn't believe him. It was so fantastic that they killed him because they thought he was lying. It's a hard way to come to an end. But I think some of the others, especially the other chiefs, probably were wise enough to heed those words, even though they couldn't stand in the way. They probably kept that up here. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, it was in the back of their mind all along,
Yeah.
We're going to war with these people, but there's going to be 10 more for every one we kill. That's going to replace them,
Yeah.
And how are we going to do that? I think it was Sitting Bull, one of them, that said, this is basically it was like, this is kind of sort of futile, because they're going to keep coming.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. They kept coming and coming and coming, and no matter how much or whatever they did, how many ever they killed off, they just couldn't kill off enough, and then they just kept coming back. And for the Indian, that was an unthinkable thing, in a way. It was great, I suppose, for the economy for the Native American, because I'm reading this book, and it was great because more white men come in, more stuff you can get, because that's their culture, was to steal from others. That was their idea, was to capture. Maybe I shouldn't say steal, but capture. It's like a prize. And we're going to go through some of that tonight.
Like counting coup.
Yes, exactly. It was a trophy. It was a trophy. So we're reviewing this book, and I'm reading it so you don't have to. And I'm going to give you the highlights of this, and we're going to learn some stuff along the way. This is Herman Lehman, 9 Years Among the Indians, from 1870 to 1879. About the end of the days of the Native Americans right there. Because remember, the Battle of Little Bighorn was 1876, and it wasn't too many years after that most all the natives had been captured, surrendered, put on reservations, or killed off, one or the other. I mean, it was a prerogative of the United States government to take their land and put them on reservations. Like the famous Indian chief Red Cloud said, he says, the white man has made many promises. He's only kept one. Well, and they said, well, what was that? He said he was going to take our land. And they did. He's right.
What was recently seen by the Supreme Court of the United States, they have made a decision in favor of the Native Americans in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And they have basically given half of the state back to the Indians because of the treaties that were broken.
Yeah.
And so, after 100, I was trying to figure it out, after 135, 40 years, that they're still fighting for their land, but that they actually got a little bit of, like, hey, okay, we think it's still yours, So I thought it was a great thing to hear about that, but you don't see it in the mainstream news anywhere that, ooh, half of Oklahoma goes back to the Indians. What? Yeah, because that's where they were settled after the Trail of Tears. They moved them to the Oklahoma Territory and said, okay, you guys have this one, the Cherokees, you can have this plot, the Seminoles, you got a little plot over here. And, I think the Choctaw had some. But anyway, so now the Supreme Court has, said that, wait a minute. So they're going to have to work it out. But I think it's, after all these years, they finally get a little bit of, I'm trying to think of the word.
They're getting a little bit of, I think they're coming back in a way legally. You got to use the white man's tricks against the white man. You can't. That was a problem before. They didn't understand the economics. They didn't understand the language of this laws. To them, you go to the council meeting, you put your guns and weapons down, you sit down and you have talks, and this is the council. The white man was like, hey, to the Comanche, hey, we're going to have a talk, and if you don't do what we say, we'll just shoot you.
Well, but here's one thing too, and I think this is going to, I hope it does. I wish that I was more, legalese, that I could help in some way. But that, is it legal for the United States government to pass a law to break a treaty? And because that's what the Congress has done over the years. They've passed a bunch of laws, well, the Indians can't do this, and we put them on that land. Yeah, but, we get to keep the oil rights, and we get to keep the mineral rights. And now that this is settled through the Supreme Court, the Native Americans who have oil wells on their property out there in Oklahoma can now get paid for the oil that comes off their property.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
It's like, you know what? So after all these years, you got to ask the question, and since they just won this legalese thing, that is it legal for the United States government to pass laws to, infringe on native lands? If they were given by treaty, then, they're supposed to be sovereign states. You can't go over there and well, we want to buy some of this land over here. Oh, we found gold over here. We're going to take this property. Oh, we're going to pass a law that says we can go over here anytime we want to. And I hope that, this year and in the future, that the treaties will be upheld. That somebody's going to go back and say, listen, y'all broke these treaties over the years. You got to give it back,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like even custard. And I was just doing a little research on custards last day. I'm way ahead of everybody, But anyway, the point is custard. They made a treaty with Red Cloud and the Sioux of not going over into the Black Hills, right? But the treaty called for, and that they were to let the people, through the Oregon Trail and such as the Bozeman Trail, get safe passage. And they were allowed to put up forts along the way to protect the settlers going that way. Well, you got Custer, he gets a troop, and he brought a bunch of miners with him, and they went up into the Black Hills. There was, over a couple hundred men or whatever. I think there was close to 1,000. But anyway, needless to say, he brings this whole troop up into the mountains, and then they went to mine for gold to see if they could find any gold in them dar hills, which was not part of the treaty, to go to the hills and look for gold. And that's where things really went wrong, is because they broke the treaty by doing that. The treaty was to give safe passage. It wasn't to, go out with a bunch of troops and mine for gold to see, because once they said, oh, then there's their gold in them dar hills. And well, you know what that means. The floodgates are open and thousands of white men are going to show up there, mine for the gold in the Black Hills, which were very sacred to the Sioux. And, that's like their sacred lands. And all of a sudden you got every Tom, Dick, and Harry miner and, Mr. Hohandle coming up there to, dig for gold. And of course, that, when they're digging for gold, they got to eat, they got to sleep, they got to cut down the trees, they make cabins, etc., etc. Yeah, not a good thing.
And they put a strain on the rest of the resources for the native folk,
Well, yeah, like I said, they got to eat. So, hey, there's some elk. They're living in the mountains. Oh, there's some buffalo. Hey, there's some, whatever, birds, anything. If it moves, they're going to shoot and eat it. You're hungry, right?
Yeah. They, I watched a documentary just the other day, last week, and it was about how folks are they're still encroaching on Indian lands in the Black Hills. They're still trying to take the land that's rightfully the Indians. They don't need no thinking proof. They were there before the white man came. What is your problem here? But the white folks are just, an acre here, an acre there, 5 acres here. They're still trying to crunch up all of the Indian land in South Dakota. I thought it was just like, come on, have you folks just, give it up, It's their land, If you ask nice, maybe they'll let you use part of it or something, but let it go.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I know, but that's the whole thing. Like I said, it's just they're on the land, and people, like right now, people are probably looking at it going, well, they got thousands of acres and they're only using, a small chunk of that. Why should they have all that land they're not using and not doing anything with? You know what I mean? But in respect for the Indian, they are, hunting grounds and burial grounds, and they the land is what they believe in. That's their church of some sort. You know what I mean? We can't understand it. You know what I mean? That's
we the white folks don't understand the sacredness of the earth.
Yeah.
Just don't get it.
Yeah, we don't get
the earth. It's just a tree. It's just a rock. Nothing is sacred to them.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's one of those things. Anyway, let's get on with this book, and we're going to talk about some of this stuff. right now. Let's see. So there we go. And so we're talking about Herman Lehman, and this is him. We reviewed this last week. You know, he went with his brother. He was abducted by the Indians in 1870. You know, and then he became a part of the Apaches and then the Comanches. And in 1878, you know, he met up with Quanah Parker and became part of his adopted son in his Comanche family. And then, you know, basically had to go back to the white people because the days of the native were pretty much over. You know, there was no more, you know, freedom for the Indians to run around and do what they got to do. You can see in this picture, you know, here you are standing over on the cliff, and you can see the town there, and they've taken over the hills with crosses and, you know, made roads, and literally there's no room for you anymore. And you can't, you know, roam the plains like you used to. It's pretty simple on how that works. But anyway, the point is we're going to get right down to it and talk about how this all came to be, because he describes things really, really well. So, okay, with that, remember last week we were talking about the last chapter about the Indians and how they got sick, and then the shaman, he basically said make large stones and then put the Indians in the wigwam and then dump them in the cold frozen water, and then give them some tea from a root of a plant, and then the plague went away, believe it or not. So whatever he did a good thing, but in the meantime, a lot of them died off. Okay, so now this chapter is called Back to the Reservation. And you know, so after they got there, they were, you know, they were living on a reservation. They didn't like it. You know, they kind of weren't stuck on the reservation. There was nobody really, you know, putting a chain to them and saying, listen, we fenced it off. This is your land. You got to stay here. They just kind of meandered in and out. So they left. They went over to New Mexico. The soldiers followed them. They went back. They were driven back, and then the soldiers followed them. So they were driven back into the reservation, and they gave the promise not to run away anymore. But being a white guy, the Indians knew that the white man would figure it out. So he had to always be kept hidden. And, or if they did find out, then the red man would kill him. So he was kind of afraid of the whites. That's what he says. And I can understand that in some way or shape or form, because, you know, he's got that, you know, a mentality. I'm an Indian now, but I'm not Indian. So anyway, they're the tribes on the reservation would camp about 15 miles apart, and I think maybe you'll agree with me about how that was. I think that's for food and game, because if you get too close to each other, you'll run out of grass for your horses and food to go shoot and eat and stuff like that. But anyway, the Indians, they partied a lot. And he says here, an old Indian woman brought me a quantity of beer, me and another guy, and we both drank freely. Now remember, it wasn't ice beer. And Indians get really drunk, and so did he. We were both tipsy. And he told me how that when they got captured, or they captured him, that he made fun of him and picked on him and tortured him. And he didn't like that, so he drew a 6-shooter out and ran the rascal away and shooting at him. Then he was so drunk he fell into a ditch. Anyway, let's see but this is a good one. You're gonna like this one. He says one day an Indian squaw was having a fight with her husband, and the warrior was beating his wife. Well, anyway, The warrior was going to shoot his wife, and with one of those old cap and ball rifles, with the little thing about. Anyway, if you know what those are, black powder gun. Put it that way, right?
Flintlock.
He was about ready to shoot the squaw when all of a sudden he jumps up, he grabs the gun, and he wrestles it out from under him. And they're fighting for this gun when the gun slipped and fell. And he knocked the cap out of the gun, but there was still enough stuff in there, the sulfur in the tube, and the gun fired. He was scared because it fired at an old squaw right in front of me, he says, with a wood in her arm. She must have been carrying some firewood or something. And she tumbled over, and I ran away. I thought I killed her. Now listen to this. Accidents are not excusable in Indian life. To kill an Indian means to be killed by the nearest relative of the deceased. Wow. So there are no accidents. Oh, what a way to live. Whoops, I dropped my gun. And we'll hear more about accidents in the future here before the night is over. So he ran off, and apparently some sweet little Indian that found him later on, his sweetheart, he says, and she said that the ball had hit the load of wood that was in her arms and knocked her down. So she did survive, and he was able to come back to the tribe. So there you go. Good for him, right? Now, learning about horses, he remember he was doing the horses and Carnivus. He gave him a couple horses, and his job was to watch the horses. And he had one horse that was real gentle, and he was riding that one, and put a half hitch over its nose and over its head, etc., etc. And he grabbed another horse, and he's leading the two horses. Well, one of them started going crazy, and then began to pitch and rear, and I jumped off. Horse number 2 and horse number 1 broke horse number 2's neck, and then Carnivus beat me nearly to death. Well, anyway, but they respected their horses a lot. Horses were like a big commodity, and we're going to find that out tonight, because most of these stories are all about horses. So, needless to say, now he's probably been there 2 or 3 years, and he's becoming of that age where, he might need to meet a girl. He's probably about, 15 or 16 now, and he's going to meet a girl, and he sees this they went to trade with some Mexicans, and another party of our tribe came in, and they had a beautiful Mexican girl. Oh boy, and they wanted him to marry her. And remember, she's a beautiful Mexican girl. And so Carnivus, his Indian chief father figure or whatever, he kind of owned him, said, you know what? You like this girl? I will get this girl for you. And Carnivus offered to pay the other Indians 2 horses for her. And he did. Well, he thought she was the prettiest girl he'd ever seen. But they fastened them up together in the same wigwam. And I suppose, so this is like an arranged marriage. Now, what do you take out of this? I need your opinion on this. They fastened us up together in the same wigwam. You think they just put him in the wigwam and shut the door and said, okay, go to it?
Fastened it up means that they laced up the front door.
Oh.
Because if you looked at the teepees, they all have some kind of, they're lacing or some kind of flap that goes over. And so, the explanation is they laced them up. So they would do that with the newlyweds. as sort of a joke, you know. We're going to tie them up in there and let them have it, you know. So,
yeah.
But anyways, but the lacing up business has to do with the front of the teepee.
I see. So they laced it up all right, and well, he's stuck in there with her. Now, being a young boy, he probably I was thinking about a lot about this. He probably had no idea about girls because he's a young boy and she's a young girl. We know that girls today, they mature a little bit faster than the girls back then. And the boys today, they tend to mature a little faster than the boys back then, I suppose, too. So he said she did not, while they were in there, she didn't want a husband, and I did not want a wife. So, especially not the one they selected for me. So it did not materialize. So some other warriors bought the girl. A lot of the girls were bought when they were 6 or 7 years old, and they were trained up from there. Let's see. While they're on the Apache Reservation in New Mexico and White Pine Reservation, it often happened that Indians would get whiskey and mezcal. Mezcal. What is mezcal? I know what whiskey is.
Mezcal is mescaline.
Okay. What's that? Mescaline.
It's peyote.
Peyote. Okay.
So I did mezcal is a drink with peyote in it.
Okay. Well, anyway, being on this reservation, remember, they're putting all the tribes together. All the Indians from one to the other, they're just being all put together. And many times they would kill each other. And one time a feud broke out with my party of friends. We pitted against another band of Apaches and we killed them all. Not caring to be tried for this by the reservation authorities, we decided to sneak away accordingly. Yeah, see, so the thing is the nature of the natives was to war among themselves. So they did. But the nature of the white man was to say, you're not supposed to kill. It's our law. Which law do you obey? The Indian law or the white man law? See, this is a good question. I think this is where the Indian was kind of torn between it. To us, killing is, taboo, especially back then, everybody was a Christian Bible thumper saying, thou shalt not kill, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that has been an issue with the treaties that I was talking about a few minutes ago. And it has to do with those folks, tribal law versus, white law.
Yeah.
And they are still having issues with that today. What jurisdiction, is that on tribal land? And if it is, then it means that only federal agents can go on tribal land, not a county sheriff or not a policeman. That it would have to be a federal agent, like an FBI person or something.
Yep.
So, but anyway, that's the kind of thing they are still dealing with today in Oklahoma. Well, not only in Oklahoma, they're still having that issue on Pine Ridge out there in South Dakota and stuff. It's all about, what jurisdiction.
Yep. No, I totally agree. While in the tribes were there, they couldn't do much. So what happens when you get a bunch of people that are bored and they got nothing to do? Remember, their idea was the 4 seasons. You go hunt in the spring for buffalo, bison, and the summer you war, and fall is the fall hunt, and then in the winter is sit home and and enjoy your stuff, fix your teepees, fix your bows and arrows, make some moccasins and things like that, and be ready for spring hunt. But now these people were bored. They were on the reservation. They were fighting with each other, and they were also having games, and weird games too. Because what do you do? You're trained fighters, trackers, horse riders. So he says, well, they teamed us up, a Mexican boy and myself. Remember, he was a captured Mexican boy. And they were placed on fast horses to run a horse race. And then after the boy beat me riding, the Mexicano, he whipped me, and another wager was laid to see if we could fight. And so then they put him in a circle or whatever and made him fight, and they kicked and bit, and they choked each other while the crowd hissed. And then finally, by accident, my finger straight into his mouth, and he nailed it. But by a sudden stroke, I downed him, and he let go. Of course, he was probably biting him. And then it was a good way to win. And then his master rushed in and kicked me in the head, knocking me clear loose. Of course, what happens then? His master, Carnivus, drew his pistol and knocked the Indian down. Our men drew their weapons, and the whole crowd prepared to fight. The Mexicano was not able to get up. He was very sore, but I was able to ride that evening. And of course, my party had the best horses, and we won. Soon the other party had nothing. So basically, they were gambling horses. They were gambling. So don't think that the Indians just did nothing and sat in their teepees and talked stories, because just like you and me, they get bored. So they invent things. They go horse racing because that's what you do. You're a horse culture. You're going to race horses. You're going to fight. You're going to, and then bet, gamble. So anyway, now let's move on to the next chapter. This is trading with the rate and rating. And this just blows my mind. So they're there, they're traveling between the Mexicans. This is the kind of stuff they would do. He said, the Indian boys and I would steal these burros. The Mexicans had burros. They're traveling across, packs, caravans to go from one place to the other. Yeah, pack animals. So they have the burros, and they're going from one place to another. And this is the only way to get your stuff, shipped. Put it that way. They were well laden with flour, meal, coffee, and sugar, and like trinkets to trade with the Indians for horses and mules as they camped. Okay, so the Indian boys and I would steal these burros and drive them several miles during the night and leave them near water. Then go back to the warriors, who would give us a plume or a red string, and we would feel well paid for our night's work. Wow, a red string. Woohoo!
That's sort of like counting coup.
I guess so. It
was their way of being able, because there wasn't another tribe, so they picked on the donkeys,
Exactly. It says here, when the burros got fat, we would kill them and eat them. And sometimes the Mexicans would hire us to look for their burros, and they would give us blankets and trinkets for finding them. Well, they stole them. It sounds like, the kids in the city back in the day, stealing the hubcaps off your car. And then, hey, I got some hubcaps for sale. You want to buy them? They'll sure look like mine. I need some hubcaps on my car. Well, I'll put them on for you. Put it that way, right? So anyway, so they often took off and they went to steal horses. This is what big thing they did. They went to steal horses. Horses were like prime trading tools, or it was a stature thing or something. So anyway, he went down to the river. They went to steal some horses. We stole a small bunch of horses. We'd come afoot and had secured enough horses to mount each Indian. There were 13 of us, in our party, and we were traveling at night going up the river when we were fired upon by men. And then we went down a narrow canyon, and well, we escaped. Not an Indian getting killed or hurt, but except for one of our party got hurt by falling off his horse. So they staked out the white men, and he says they were so close, the night was very dark, and the fire from the white man's guns blinded us. Some of our horses ran deep in a gully. There you go. Well, they all got scattered, and then presently he could hear the hooting of an owl. Whoo, whoo. You know, we see that on the movies all the time, but that's exactly what they did. You know, these are all true things. I knew the signal in a very short time. We were all together and hastened along our journey. So they went down the Kickapoo River, and we discovered 2 men in a camp with a large herd of horses, 40 or 50. We concealed ourselves, and watching them down until night will fall, we saw them and rounded up the herd. We prepared to spend the night there, but soon the moon rose, and we rushed into camp, stampeding the horses and started them to run in the direction we were traveling. The 2 men were asleep as we rushed in by them and shot at them. I don't think we hit them, he says. We kept those horses on a run all night, changing mounts frequently, and we ran till the sun came up the next morning. We were many miles away from there. Well, they must have been running for at least 8 hours. I mean, come on, I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, how many miles? They probably went 20 miles. Back in those days, 20 miles was a long run. And if a horse runs all night, yeah, that's a good 20 miles, if not more. You know, so anyway, that's the thing. In the late afternoon that day, we discovered a party of rangers on our trail, and we whipped the herd and kept going on and on for 4 days and nights. We rode without food or water. I got so tired and sleepy, I fell off my horse exhausted. The Indians picked me up and lashed me to a new horse, and on we went. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. You know I rode horse. I got horses. I rode and rode and rode and rode. And, you know, you can get tired. But, man, 4 days and nights, them horses must have been exhausted too. And without food or water, these people were tough. Wow. You know? Anyway, yeah. Anyway, so he was so tired, and they lashed him to the next horse. Keep going. Well, anyway, the Rangers, by the way, are the biggest threat to the Indians, especially down in Texas way. The Apaches feared the Rangers more than the cavalry, more than any of the others. The Rangers were very feared. The Rangers did not give up. The Rangers were actually, one of these days I'll do a show on the Rangers. The Rangers were made up like of the baddest men ever to walk the earth. You know, if you were a bad man, you were a Texas Ranger. You were tough as nails. You were somebody to be feared. You would, shoot or kill or be killed with the Rangers kind of thing. Anyway, they finally lost the Rangers, and they thought themselves pretty lucky. By the 5th night of the pursuit, we lay down for a short rest, not knowing that off to our right, a mile in the distance, was General Mackenzie and a large party of soldiers were in camp. And see, there again, they weren't so worried about the soldiers as they were about them Texas Rangers. Well, all of a sudden, the Kiowas came along, and discovering the soldiers' camp, they charged it and succeeding in driving off 50 or 60 head of cavalry horses, again with the horses. That's what these natives were doing. They were literally, even though they had a reservation to go to, they would go out of the reservation, steal horses, and run back, back and forth. No wonder why the cavalry was hunting them down and the Rangers were hunting them down, because it just got bad. Anyway, they engaged in battle, After sunrise the next morning, we discovered a running herd of horses and Indians following. Now, this is ingenious. So they didn't know who was running the other horses. And with the aid of a small mirror, remember how I was talking once before, they had a little piece of metal and they were flashing each other when he was first caught. They would flash each other. So, a small mirror, one of our party, we flashed a ray which caught one of the Kiowas square in the eyes, and he turned to signal across to us, and we knew that a band of Indians were our friends. And within an hour's time, we had joined forces with them. We went across the plains together and finally separated, and the Kiowas going west to their headquarters in the Yellow House Canyon, and we to our villages way up on the plains beside the Great Lake of Water. So that's what they did. Then, again, they went on a raid. 15 warriors and myself included went down to the Pecos on a stealing expedition, and we came across some Mexican traders who were coming up the draw with burros loaded with wares. Yeah, loaded with wares. We stampeded the Mexicans and captured the burros, and we kept their wares, of course, and that was loaded with blankets, powder, and lead caps, and our other articles we wanted. They were very excited, and it was an easy victory. But all of a sudden, there was a shower of rocks. Now, this is something really cool because I've never heard of this before. There was a shower of rocks like missiles from the hillside above, and one of our party was struck in the shoulder and knocked from his horse. The Mexicans had slings with which they hurled rocks at us. We fired at them, and they would not show themselves, and pretty soon they let us alone and disappeared. If we killed any of the Mexicans, I don't know. So, here he is, and they're getting fired upon. See, people were ingenious. Even if you didn't have a gun, you had a slingshot. Go figure. I'd have never guessed that. Okay, so in the fall of 1872 or 73, so he's been with the Indians now about 3 years. So he's already been trying to be married off. So, man, he was like 10 when they caught him. So he's only 13, and they were trying to marry him. What do you think of that?
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Oh, boy. No wonder why he didn't know what to do with the girl in the thingamabob, Uh-oh. I kicked something, and I disconnected myself. In the late fall of 1872 or 3, we went to the Great Plains across the Rio Grande and came to Mexico to spend the winter. And because it got so cold in the region, we had abundance of wild game to sustain us. Anyway, let's see. They went on. Fast forward through all of this. They went down in some canyons. Him and another boy, a little Mexican boy, decided that they were going to be heroes and go steal some horses on their own. Now remember, he's only like 13, coming 14, and he and this boy decided that they're going to do their own little thing, and they took off, and of course, they got lost. He didn't know what he was doing, and they ran out of food and water until they came to a little canyon, and there was some water there, and they found a colt grazing, a little horse colt down there, so they killed it with an arrow, he says. And we lay around there and ate the colt for several days. Now, this is ingenious how they did this. We skinned this colt and made each of us a water bag out of the hide and filled these water bags with water. We cut what flesh off the carcass as we could and journeyed on down the Rio Grande, and somewhere near Laredo, we undertook to swim across the river. But the stream was swift and full of suckholes. What's a suckhole?
Whirlpools.
It could be.
Yeah, because they suck you right down. And if you're walking, there's mud holes under the water that will grab a hold of you and just suck you down under the water. They're rough.
You can take over for a second. I just unplugged myself. Hang on.
Okay. He unplugged himself. Oh, no. What a way to start the day. I just unplugged myself. So, my friends, we've got a new book coming up here for stories tonight and coming up here in the near future. And oops, I'm trying to find the page. One of the stories is called Glooscap's Country. And that's the story I'm gonna read tonight. And Glooscap was one of the characters we've read in many of the stories. And so this one is about Glooscap and all of his different adventures. And I'll just read this a little bit, and I think we got our gentleman back. The stories, the stories in this collection were first published by John Lane, limited in Canadian Wonder Tales in 1918. And so these stories go back a long way, and that's the book that we're going to be reading from. And some of the stories are how Turtle came, the fall of the Spider-Man, how Rabbit lost his tail, Owl with the great head and eyes, the first pig and porcupine, and those are just a couple of the stories. So, but anyway, that's what you got to look forward to tonight. Our first story tonight is Glooscap's Country. So, okie dokie, back to you.
All right, thanks. I kicked one of the plugins and shut my other screens off, and I didn't know what I was doing. I felt like I was driving blind. Go figure. Anyway, so anyway, again, ooh, boy, things are really crashing down on me. Oh, not a good day for that. Anyway, so him and this kid are out there, and they cross the river. They got these horses to go get some horses, and they went into Mexico. The whole tribe decided to go down to Mexico too, because it was warmer down there. You know, they crossed the Rio Grande when there was plenty of game. The weather was warm, and so again, the party of Apaches decides to go out and get some more horses. So, anyway, he gets so one night they discovered two Indians on the other side of the river, and the night they went down and they stole 30 head of horses. He says, I got 16 of that number, and we re-swam the river with the two Indians and reached our camp to safety in about 10 days. Can you imagine going out to steal horses and it takes you 10 days? Well, anyway, they were making a third party of our warriors made the raid into interior Mexico. We went along for this party. We went into town to steal horses. Went right into town. Can you imagine that? But there was 5 horses tied in a stable. How desperate do you got to be to steal 5 horses? So they went to the stable, and the Indians, the real Indians, didn't want to go in. So they sent him and one of the Mexican boys into the stable to get the horses. Unfortunately, there was men there, and the men shut the stable doors and penned him in. And he was scared, and he climbed up and he jumped out a window and ran away as fast as he could. But the little Mexican boy did not. He didn't succeed, but he ran for 4 days and finally caught up with his other Indian friends. They gave him a pony that they had stolen, and they were out of there. They proceeded to their village, but the little Mexican kid, he did succeed in escaping and eventually returned to the Indians several weeks later. Now, here's a good one for you. After I read that, I thought, you are a captured Mexican trapped with the Indians. You're out there stealing horses, and you get caught by the white man or the Mexicans, right? Why wouldn't you just stay? But no, you try to escape to get back with the Indians. Tell me that. Explain that to me.
They had, I can never remember the name of that, Stockholm syndrome.
Yes.
Because they saw the white man as the enemy, quite frankly. And so, you're better off with the white man, but they just didn't look at it that way.
No, they didn't, I guess. But yeah, they better run back to the natives. So anyway, they got back there. So the Mexican soldiers were making it very hot for them down in Mexico. So they packed up their belongings and headed out. They had to cross. The soldiers were after them, and they went to cross the Rio Grande, but the river was getting big. We had to swim across. This is really interesting too. We made a kind of a boat out of stiff buffalo hide and put all the papooses into it. Papooses are little kids. So they made kind of makeshift boat, put the babies in. The craft floated all right, and with several Indians on each side, it was ferried across with its live cargo in safety. It took us all day to get across. We lost one man. Holy cow, what kind of river is this?
The Rio Grande.
All day to get across. How big is that river? I don't know. I've never been to the Rio Grande, but it must be a hell of a river to take all day to get across. Wow. And then they lost one guy.
I think it had to do with all of their equipment and everything.
That could be. Could be.
I mean, I don't think it was just the kids. They made a little canoe for the papooses, but that says that there was a lot of other stuff they were getting across. The women had to cross. The old people had to cross. They had to, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
I could see where it would take all day, especially if a river's up and flooded. If there's been some water, from uphill that's coming downstream and the river rises a foot, because my river down here is up a foot, and it spreads out and it gets really fast, and so I could see it in a heartbeat, and it can come up quick too.
Yeah Oh yeah, definitely could. Well, it took them all day across, and when they got there, we traveled 4 days and nights and then stopped in roughs and rested. But the Mexicans were still following us. Well, they're taking their whole tribe and they're crossing, and now they're running and going for 4 days and nights. I mean, is anybody here who can walk for 4 days and nights without stopping? I mean,
or for 4 hours.
Yeah, hell, if you had to walk all day, most people would give up. But 4 days and 4 nights, that would put the New York Marathon to shame.
Yep.
I mean, don't stop, don't sleep, just keep walking. 4 days, 4 nights, don't stop. And you're probably carrying something too, or pulling something. So anyway, they said that the army was well armed that was following him, but our chief, Carnivus, said we have to stop. We cannot leave because our horses are given out. They must rest. Now here's his speech. At this time, to escape by flight is impossible. He's telling his warriors this and all the people. If there are cowards this is quite the speech, people. Listen up. If there are cowards among us, let them go now. In a few minutes, the enemy will be here, so close that escape will be impossible. Let us fight together and be assured that no force that the Mexicans can raise can outrout us from here. Not an Indian attempted to escape. All resolved to live together and fight together and conquer together. And I'm thinking, when I'm reading this, and I'm thinking, oh man, so they're saying we're outnumbered 5-1. And they got lots of guns, and we're going to stick it out. And they did. The Mexicans made a charge. We repulsed them again and again, but we fell back before the deadly fire. and we determined to take our camp, and many of our warriors were killed. Wow. Well, how many warriors are you asking did they kill? Carnivus cheered the braves as the battle progressed. Night came on and the Mexicans withdrew. At the end of it all, we had 62 dead and many wounded. We buried the dead in a cave nearby. Now, this is the interesting part, people. This is something really, I don't know how, but I want your opinion on this. Listen to this. 62 dead men, many wounded. We buried the dead in a cave nearby, killed their horses and dragged them in too, and then filled the mouth of the cave with rocks. One warrior who was killed in the fight owned a Mexican boy. We killed the boy and buried him with his master. Wow. Better not hope your master gets killed, because you don't have a chance. I mean, so remember when we talked about travois?
Yeah.
Here it says we carried the wounded on a litter. I didn't know it was called a litter too. It's two poles fastened on the side of a horse's shoulder. Okay, so basically it's a travois, and they call it a litter. So those are the two things. So anyway,
never heard that term, litter?
No, I did not.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, well, I always called it a travois, or whatever it was, but I never heard that term actually. So learning something new all the time. They went to Fort Griffith, and there they stole 6 more horses. You'd think they'd learn their lesson. Those soldiers followed us, and we stuck up a trail with some Lipins and some more Apaches, and the troops followed their trail. Eventually, we broke up, and these were friendly Indians, and so we separated and went our separate ways, because they weren't afraid, because the soldiers, if they caught them, they were friendly Indians, right? They didn't steal anything. But not so. The soldiers rushed into their camp and murdered men, women, and children, and only a few squaws escaped to tell the tale. Thus, the innocent were persecuted while the guilty ones went free. Wow. See, that's the soldiers, They just point and say, look, we've been raided. They took our horses. Here's some Indians. We got to get rid of them. There's just no in-betweens to all of that. It's kind of sad in a way. So anyway, they went on. They fled. We took they pillaged more. They found some Mexicans encamped at a canyon. They left. We chased them. They left. We took everything out. We took their scalps. We hung them from our belts, and then we went back to their camp. We took everything that they had. And then all of a sudden the word came. Remember, this is about the time that all the Indians were joining forces. I think they'd wised up and realized that they were all Indians, and my enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? So the Comanches and the Kiowas were fighting soldiers, and they wanted our help, so we did. And we fought the scouts, and then we escaped. Anyway, we met a party of Comanches. Food was scarce, and we went on for many days on short rations. When they say many days, I can imagine it was like weeks, because we talked about how they'd ride for 4 days without food and water. When they say short rations, they mean short rations. Anyway, they had to go across a river. An Indian girl horse gave out, and she went down the river. This is how brave these people are. I jumped off in to catch her, and she caught me around the neck, and I could not get her loose. You know what happens when somebody's drowning. They kick and they scream and they pull you down with her. And in desperation, I struck her and knocked her senseless. And then I caught her by the hair and swam to the bank with her and the Indians. They pulled us both out. Wow. Just knocked her in the head. Jeez. For 2 or 3 nights, we slipped into a town. We peeped in the windows. You know, I mean, I was just reading this. I'm thinking, oh my God, you know, you're in your house, you're thinking everything's good, and you got Indians peeping in your windows, seeing what's in there and how many people and what can we do to you. We came to the north of town. We discovered 2 men camped under a live oak trees. So we killed them and scalped them and stole their 6 horses. I'm thinking, oh, no wonder why there was always these. This is just one group. You know, there was always that, thing that the Indians are going to get you. You're going to get scalped in the middle of the night. And these guys are just proving it. Well, anyway, they took these Indians, they killed these men, they stole their horses, and they rode off. And we thought the Rangers were upon us. When all of a sudden, with one of there was a gun that went off. And they got all scared. So they ran off in different directions and hid behind trees and rocks. And after nothing happened, the carnivus, the chief, he found that one of the Indians' pistols had struck a rock and accidentally discharged, striking him in the knee and inflicting a painful wound. The Indian became a cripple for life. Talk about bad luck. You know? Yeah, he went down to the river to drink, struck a rock, boom. Well, that just tells you how dangerous those black powder guns are. You know, I mean, sure, that's what he had. I mean, they were just, gunpowder with a bullet, and you keep it loaded, and you strike something, creates a fire, and the gun goes off. We traveled along. Hopefully, we were not followed. Anyway, we came out of sight of 4 men on horseback leading a pack. Well, we rode upon them, and they separated. We finally ran them down and killed and scalped them, taking the pack animals. In the pack was a large quantity of money, greenbacks, and silver and gold. The greenbacks, we just tore them up. We made ornaments of the silver and gold. When we reached our camp, we had a big feast and a dance. Anyway, my buddy was asking me, do these Indians ever, celebrate like New Year's and party or anything like that? And I says, any chance they got, they did. There was probably a celebration for pretty much anything. Oh, look, we killed a buffalo. Let's celebrate. We stole some horses. Let's celebrate. There's Joanne dancing gypsy. Hey, there you go. Happy New Year to you. And but that's the thing. So that was the deal, is they were just going along and stealing horses, and they had no use for greenbacks, which is money. Paper money to them just was more of just campfire food, and the silver and gold were ornaments. They just didn't realize what they had. See, that's the difference between the white man and the red man. And that's all I got for you tonight.
But they took the silver and the gold and they made ornaments, but that was the value to the Indians.
Yes, exactly. Ornaments.
And to this day, out in the Four Corners area, they still do. I had friends of mine that were Navajo, and the mother made jewelry, then sold it online and whatever. But so they still make jewelry and such out of gold and silver out there.
Yeah, which is really cool. I mean, they're known for that jewelry and rhinestones and silver work. And I think, according to what I read, that they learned a lot of that silver work from the Mexicans when they came, and which is been there. They were there 100 years before the United States was being settled so much. So they had, they were taking slaves and taught these trades to do the work for the Mexicans that came over, the Spaniards, I should say, right?
Yeah.
Well, they used to the Spaniards that came over. They would capture the natives and make them work in the mines to mine the silver and gold and the ores and things like that. So I imagine they made them work in the silversmithing shops to do the work too. That's probably where they learned it from.
Oh yeah, to make one. Well, but also they knew how to make it already. So, but the Spanish just kind of hurried them up.
Yes.
Like, oh, make me some more of those right there so I can take them back and sell them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Absolutely. Well, like I said, that was the journeys of pillaging. I mean, now just put yourself in that place there and think you're a settler and you got your pack mules and your horses and you're heading out west to either do gold mining or make it to California. And this big tribe of Indians comes along. Basically, all they want is your horses and your trinkets and stuff. And they don't care. They're going to kill you off and scalp you because the hair on your head to them is very valuable. And, your horses are valuable. Everything else, you don't have to worry about them stealing your money because they didn't like greenbacks.
They'll just tear it up.
Just tear it up. Silver and gold, they didn't really have much use for that either. So anyway, story tonight. My bit's done. I just went over a little bit. Sorry. Anyway, Christmas. Yeah, I gotta go. Yes, I know how that is. Happy New Year to you. Thank you for stopping by tonight. You can watch the story on rerun later on. David's going to tell the Goosebump country story. So here you go. New book. He's just going to fast forward to the middle. Just catch the story later. Happy New Year to you. Oh, there you go. Okay, I got it. Is that the right one you wanted?
Yes.
Good deal.
And while that was going on and you were talking about that, I pulled us some cards.
Nice. Cards for the new year. Who doesn't like that?
6 of them.
Holy bucket loads.
And 5 of them are right side up. Oh, come on. I lost my place. Hang on. It scrolled down without my permission.
Oop, yep.
I hate when that happens. Okay. Let me burp, get some coffee, and we'll start off. Glooskap was one of these characters that, basically the creator, a creator, went around creating stuff and getting into trouble and all that. But so this story is called Glooskap's Country. In far back times, many centuries before the white men came from Europe to live in the New World, eastern Canada was inhabited by Indians. They were a mighty race, great in size and strong in battle. Their descendants live in certain of these parts still, dwelling in settlements of their own apart from white folk. You may still see them in their strange tents or wigwams, making arrows and baskets and garden seats. Some of them are still fleet of foot and can run many miles without tiring. But their real greatness has long since gone. They have grown smaller in size, and they are no longer powerful as in the old days. In early times, they were called the children of light, for all the people in America, they dwelt nearest to the sunrise. Their great lord and creator was Glooskap, where he was himself born, and when, no man knows. From the place of his birth, he sailed across the sea in a great canoe to the part of America nearest to the rising sun. He landed on the eastern shores of Canada. Far out he anchored his canoe, and it was so large that it became an island, and great trees grew upon it. When he needed it, it was always ready to do his bidding, but it always became an island when it was not in use. On the shore of the Atlantic Ocean, Glooskap dwelt many years, ages and ages, until one day he sailed away to the hunting grounds of his fathers far over the sea. About Glooskap's work, many strange tales are told. From his birth and throughout his long life, his deeds were very wonderful. He was one of twin brothers, the other being Wolf, the son of wickedness. Glooskap was the son of goodness. Their mother died at their birth, and the two children were left alone. Both had magic power, which could keep them from harm, and death could not come to them except in one way. Glooskap could be killed only by a flowering rush, and Wolf only by a fern root, and each alone knew the secret of his own death. Now it was known before Glooskap's birth that he should become the lord of the land of the rising sun in Canada. But Beaver and Squirrel, who were great in those days, and even before his coming, were jealous of his power when he arrived, for they themselves wished to rule the land. They tempted Wolf to kill his brother, and he, being the son of wickedness, would have been glad of the chance, but he did not know the secret of his brother's death. One night of brilliant, bright starlight, Beaver, hiding stealthily among the trees, as was his custom, heard Glooskap boasting to the stars about his charmed life. He could trust the stars, and he told them that he could be killed only by means of a flowering rush. Then Beaver hurried away to Wolf. He told him that he knew the great secret of Glooskap's death, and that he would tell it if Wolf would give him what he wished. To this, Wolf agreed, and Beaver told him what he had heard Glooskap say to the stars. "What do you want in return for the secret?" asked Wolf. "Wings like a pigeon," answered Beaver. But Wolf said, "You have a tail like a file. What could you do with wings like a pigeon?" And he laughed at him scornfully and would not grant him his wish as he had promised. Thereupon Beaver was very cross and resolved to have vengeance on Wolf. He went quickly to Glooskap and told him that Wolf knew the secret of his death, and that he better be on his guard. The next night, Glooskap hid himself among the trees near to Wolf's tent. He heard Wolf boasting to the stars about his charmed life and telling them the secret of his death, that he could be killed only by a fern root. And Glooskap, fearing for his own life, for he had no faith in the love of Wolf, the son of wickedness, at once slew his brother with a fern root. Then he changed him into a mountain, where he sleeps to this day like a huge hill. Glooskap then ruled the country alone, but soon he grew lonely without companions, and he decided to people his land. He first made the fairies and the elves, and sent them to dwell in the meadows and tiny streams and among the hills and caves. Then he took his bow and arrows, and for many days he shot at the ash trees in the forest. And out of the bark of the trees at which he shot, there came first men whom he called Indians, the children of light. Then came the animals, all that had not before lived in his land, and the birds of the air and the fish of the sea, and he gave them each a name. At first, all the animals were very large, so large that the head of the deer could touch the tops of the tallest pines. Even squirrel could tear down the largest trees in the forest. One day, Glooskap called all the animals to him to learn if they were friendly to his people. And he said to Bear, "What would you do if you should meet a man?" And Bear answered, "I should eat him up." And Glooskap sent Bear away to the Northland, far from the dwellings of men, to live on fish from the frozen sea. And he said to Squirrel, "What would you do if you should meet a man?" And Squirrel answered, "I should tear down trees on his head." And Glooskap, fearing for his men because of his strength of the animals, decided to make the animals smaller. So he took Squirrel and smoothed his back with his hand for a whole day until he became very small, as he is now. And he made him carry his tail on his back, that he might thereby use up some of his strength. But Squirrel still scratches as in the old days. Glooskap made all the animals smaller and weaker than they were when they were first created. He gave his people power over them, so that the greatest and the strongest of all his creatures was a man. The animals became his friends and the friends of his people. They could talk like men, and they often spoke to them, and they were eager to obey Glooskap and to help him in his work. Two great wolves became his dogs. He could change their size and make them kind or cruel as he willed. They guarded his tent by day and night and always followed him about, even swimming behind him when he went far away over the sea. The loons of the beach became his messengers, and one of them, Old Tattler, became his chief talebearer. They always brought him news from other lands over the water, and they also kept him well informed about the deeds of his own people, telling him who were good and who were evil. Fox, too, brought tales from places deep in the forest and was one of his most trusted friends. The rabbits became the guides of men. One of them, Old Bunny, was his scout of the woods, and those who followed him never lost their way. The partridge built boats for men and animals until, because of the bird's stupidity, Glooskap took away his power. The whale became his carrier, and old Blob the whale came quickly to his call and carried him on her back when he wished to go far over the sea. The great eagle made the winds for him. When she moved her wings, the winds blew. She could make them great or gentle as Glooskap commanded. And when Glooskap tied her wings, the winds were still. Each animal and bird had special work to do. Glooskap's only enemies were beaver and badger and bullfrog. These always plotted against him and tried to destroy his power by stirring up strife among his people. At last he could be patient with them no longer, and he resolved to drive Beaver away. One day, when Beaver watched him from a distance, Glooskap scooped up great handfuls of earth and stones and threw them in anger at his enemy. And Beaver, in great fear because of Glooskap's great power, fled far away. The earth that Glooskap threw fell into the ocean and became islands. The spot from which Glooskap had taken the earth became a beautiful bay. To the shores of this bay, Glooskap moved his tent and lived there until he left the earth. When Beaver went away, he built a dam from a high place on the south to the shore on the north, and he thought to live there in comfort. But the dam caused the high tides of the sea to overflow the valley, and it was a source of trouble and fear to the people who lived near it. Thereupon, Glooskap, in his anger one day, broke the dam and pushed part of it out into the sea. The broken part, which he moved out, became a cape stretching into the ocean, and there you may see it to this day. Then Beaver, knowing that Glooskap was more powerful than he, troubled him openly no more, but frequently by stealth he tried to do him harm. When Bullfrog was first created, he was given power over all the freshwater streams in the land. He dwelt in the stream from which Glooskap's people took water for their use, for drinking and cooking. But he too proved false to Glooskap and grew vain of his own great power. Once, that he might show his skill and win a great reputation among men, he dried up the water in the stream until only the mud remained. The people thirsted without fresh water and were distressed, and at last they complained to Glooskap. Glooskap told them not to worry, for he would set things right. That he might make sure of Bullfrog's treachery, he went himself to the bank of the stream, and there he asked a boy to bring him water to drink. The boy searched for water for a whole day while Glooskap sat on a log and silently smoked his pipe. At last the boy came back, bringing only a small cup, no larger than a thimble, filled with dirty water, and said it was all the water he could get. Glooskap knew then that his people had told him the truth about Bullfrog's wickedness. In great anger, he went himself to the mud where Bullfrog dwelt and asked for water. But Bullfrog stubbornly refused to let the water come forth. Then Glooskap grasped Bullfrog with a mighty grip and squeezed him tight until he crumpled his back and made him soft. With a great force, he hurled him far out into the mud and said, "Henceforth you shall live in dirty water, and you shall always croak with a dry throat as a punishment for your sins." Then with his own magic power, he brought forth water so that the stream flowed again, and the people all rejoiced. He promised that never again should any creature have power to dry up the streams. And since that time, Bullfrog has lived in muddy pools. He still croaks, for his throat is always dry, and to this day his back is wrinkled and crumpled, and bears the marks of Glooskap's mighty fingers. And since that day, the supply of clear water has never failed in the country, and the streams have never dried up. Glooskap was always kind to his people. He taught the men how to hunt and how to build huts and canoes. He taught them what plants were good to eat, and he told them the names of all the stars. But he did not dwell among his men. He dwelt apart from them in a great tent. But when they sought him, they always found him. He never married as they did. There dwelt with him as his housekeeper a very wise old woman. Her name was Dame Bear. But Glooskap called her always grandmother. With him, too, there lived a little boy whom Glooskap always called little brother. And Glooskap gave him a magic root from the forest, by the use of which he could change his shape into various forms. Whether or not Dame Bear was really his grandmother, or the little boy his brother, no man knows, but both lived with him until his death. Glooskap and Dame Bear and the little boy lived together for many ages. Glooskap had a magic belt which gave him power over sickness and hunger and danger and death. And anyone on whom it was placed was given the same strange power. And while Glooskap was with them, his people lived very happily. They never wanted for food or clothing, for Glooskap was kind to his people and wished them to be contented and at peace. The end.
And there we go. A great story. Start off that new book.
Yep. And there are a bunch of stories in this book. So that's the introduction of Glooskap, his grandmother, and his little brother. And I'm sure that we'll hear, parts of their story, in this book of stories. So yeah. That's a very, very interesting story right there. And I've kind of went over some of the stories, and it looks like to be an interesting bunch of stories.
Yeah, yeah.
Over the last couple of years, I know that there are some stories that are very close to what these folks over here told, and what these folks over here told, East Coast versus the Plains Indians. So, but as I was just scanning through some of these stories, it looks like some of these are going to be, we ain't heard them before,
Nice, nice. Always nice to hear new stories. We've heard of Glooskap before, but it's it's good to hear. Now I know how the bullfrog came about. He squished him, and that's what laid the prints, and that's why he's all crumply.
And also, why he croaks.
That's right. Why he croaks. Who else knew that? Anyway,
I had never heard that, so it was new to me.
Yep, that was a good new one. I like it. Anyway, cool. What do you got for cards tonight?
Oh, buddy. Well, we got beaver, and we got skunk, and we've got turkey, and we've got mountain lion, we've got bat, and then to follow it up, we've got badger upside down. So we've got 5 cards right side up, which is, that's hard to do. I don't remember that happening for a while. But then the last card that just had to be drawn was badger, and it happened to be upside down. So
okay, so I had the last one I got turkey, right? And then there was which one?
Mountain lion.
Mountain lion, that's all right.
And then bat.
I got that one. And badger.
And badger as the last one.
Okay, so I got it.
So number 22 is Beaver the Builder. Beaver is the doer of the animal kingdom. Beaver medicine is akin to water and earth energy and incorporates a strong sense of family and home. To understand beaver medicine, you might take a look at the power of working and attaining a sense of accomplishment. In building a dream, teamwork is necessary. So with this new year coming up, the first card out is Beaver the Builder, to where we all, if you want to have a dream, we have to work together. So if Beaver has appeared in your sprint, it may be time to put your ideas into action or to complete some project that has been neglected. So that's the first card up, Build the Builder. And we got to work together to achieve what we want. And so Skunk is the next one up. And Skunk is about reputation. So unlike other animals, skunk does not threaten your life, but threatens your senses. Skunk is teaching you that by walking your talk and by respecting yourself, you will create a position of strength and honored reputation. So Beaver's telling you to build and to learn to work with others, and Skunk is telling you to build a reputation that's honored. Learn to assert without ego what you are. Respect follows. Your self-respectful attitude will repel those who are not of like mind, and yet will attract those who choose the same pathway. If you have chosen this symbol, you are being asked to notice the kinds of people who are attracted to you? Do they like you for your scent or your reputation, or both? Turkey is next in line, which is number 31 in the book of stuff. Turkey's the giveaway. Yep, turkey's the giveaway. Turkey is actually thought to be the giveaway eagle or the south eagle. The philosophy of giveaway was practiced by many tribes. Simply stated, it is the deep and abiding recognition of the sacrifice of both self and others. People in modern day society who have many times more than they need should study the noble turkey who sacrifices itself so that we may live. In turkey's death, we have our life. So honor turkey. So turkey is the giveaway. Depending on how turkey is in your cards, you are being given a gift. This gift could be spiritual, material, or even intellectual. The gift may be great or small, but it is never insignificant. Congratulations, you may have just won the lottery, or the gift may be a beautiful sunset, or the smell of a fragrant flower. On the other hand, you may feel the spirit of giving growing within you and wanting you to share with others. So turkey's the giveaway. Beaver's saying we got to work together to achieve our stuff. Skunk is saying, and we need to build our reputation, an honorable reputation, as we do this in the coming year. Next one up is Mountain Lion, number 17. I find these cards to be very interesting, and they're encouraging, to me at least, for the new year. And here's Mountain Lion, which is leadership. So turkey's the giveaway. Skunk is the reputation. So you need an honorable reputation. And here comes Mountain Lion with leadership. So you got to have a honorable reputation that leads to leadership. Mountain Lion medicine involves lessons on the use of the power in leadership. It is the ability to lead without insisting that others follow you. It is the understanding that all beings are potential leaders in their own ways. And that also follows along with Beaver, because in building the dams, everybody's got their own job, but it's all towards building the dam. And so here's Mountain Lion with leadership. So if Mountain Lion has come into your dreams, it is time to stand on your convictions and lead yourself where your heart takes you. So New Year coming up, here's Mountain Lion leadership. Follow where your heart takes you. You may not be asked to review the purpose behind your personal beliefs. You may need to discover whether or not your plans include a pride of cubs, or to find someone else that might share with your dreams. In assuming the place of power that Mountain Lion affords, you must constantly be aware of keeping peace. So coming into the new year, we want to keep the peace, but that means, there's going to be a lot of folks that want to argue with this on a small scale level, and we just don't need to argue with them. You can never make everyone happy unless you lie to yourself or to others. Therefore, the first responsibility of leadership is to tell the truth. So we are going to lead other folks into this new year, these new awakenings, and we've got to do it by telling the truth. So all these cards seem to, they're all working together, man. I thought they was going to be like weird. But the next one up is Bat, number 42. Rebirth. I'm sorry. So we got all these cards that are giving us instructions on what we can do, need to do for this coming year, for the future. But it is, after all, 5 minutes before the new year here on the East Coast. And so here's Bat telling us that we need to get ready for a rebirth. Here we are, y'all. So Bat is a symbol of rebirth. Bat embraces the idea of a shamanistic death. So you don't have to physically die, but so at the, in 5 minutes, we're going to be into a new year. And so we got to let this 24 go by. We got to bury it. We got to allow it to die. And we, in 4 minutes now, are going to be reborn into 2025. These cards are right on the money. And the last one is Badger, number 29. It looks like a 6 upside down. Badger. Aggressiveness. Badger is vicious and attacks with powerful aggression. Badger is quick to anger and quicker to pounce. The power of Badger's medicine is aggressiveness and the willingness to fight for what it wants. Now that's straight up. But this is upside down. Here comes Badger upside down and fuming. This could mean that you are being chewed out by someone else, or you have expressed anger in an unhealthy way. If you are angry at someone, then you need to really be angry with yourself. Because if you let your anger show, you've lost control. Badger in the contrary position can issue in a time of reflection on what you feel helpless about. Is your fear of being blasted or belittled if you present a new idea? In the reverse, Badger teaches you the pitfalls of shyness and insecurity. So here you go with Badger upside down to teach you about your own insecurities, because that is telling you this is time for rebirth. And in your rebirth, you look at yourself and go, maybe I don't have enough initiative. Maybe I'm not aggressive enough. And here comes the new year, so that you need to get up off your tuchus and be aggressive in what you're doing. In another context, contrary Badger could be calling you to use herbs and roots to heal your body. Badger reverse may also be putting you on notice to be aware of those areas of your life that need the input of someone else's ideas. So Beaver's telling us to work together for a common goal. Turkey's telling us to, the giveaway. Mountain Lion, the leadership. Bat, the rebirth. And here's Badger, telling us we need to be aggressive in the future here. I like those cards. Those are some good cards. There's nothing in these cards that are warning us of anything. It's wow. I really like those cards.
Right on. Right on.
I mean, for future reference, and it's 1 minute before New Year's. So gonna watch it change over here in the corner of the computer to 2025. Golly, I can't believe we made it this far. Well, Robert, I'm glad that we can be here tonight with each other and share this time together. And it's how many shows is this now?
Oh, 157.
157. So, we've come a long way, baby, and a lot of stories told, a lot of stuff talked about, and it's coming up. There it is. Happy New Year.
Yay! Happy New Year, everybody. What did we wait for? Yay, we got the confetti and the stuff. Woo!
I used to have one of those toy horns, and I don't know where one is. I should have looked earlier.
Happy New Year! You're spending with the Soul Tribe. It's going to be a great year. Yep. Hey, there you go. Oh, look at that. Happy New Year, all equality in my Joanne Dancing Gypsy, thank you. Yeah, you get caught over Rex's channel. He's funny as heck. Happy New Year, Lucky. Happy New Year. There you go. I love it. Awesome. Awesome. Cool. See, we're here celebrating. Who needs to go out drinking and whatever? We're right here. That's all we need. With us and the Soul Tribe. Yeah, everybody, and then we'll be here you can just watch us tomorrow. So that is a good thing.
And I bought a bunch of fireworks.
Nice.
To the tune of $180.
Holy cow.
But I've got like 50 mortars of different colors and different strengths. And I shot off one of each of the 4 kinds that I bought. And there's these ones that are in this little tubey thing. And I lit that thing off. God almighty, it shook the ground. It was like boom. Holy mackerel. Whoa, dude. I mean, I like fireworks. I think I was in the Civil War, because the smell of the gunpowder after these things go off is just like I must have worked in artillery or something in a previous life. But anyway, but yeah, these things are spectacular. We have they changed the law in Georgia a few years back to where you can buy legally fireworks and shoot them off. So unless you're in a municipality and they won't let you, but out here in the country, anybody can do it. But so there's a really good selection of fireworks, to where before you had to go to Tennessee or to Alabama, and then sometimes that you didn't have much of a selection. But anyway, so we got plenty of choices now. So I spent more money than I should have, but I paid all my bills for this year, and I had some left over, and I was like, I really want to celebrate. I really like fireworks, and what the hell?
That's right. That's right. I'm glad we could celebrate it here with you.
Yeah,
too bad we don't get to see the fireworks.
Yeah, I wish I was thinking about it. I wish there was a way to, record it, but if somebody else was here, they could film it, because some of these things are gorgeous. I mean, when they pop open, they're like 50 feet across or more, wow. It ain't just bang. No, these things they're real fireworks.
Happy New Year, Sherry. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you, Elderberry, Lucky Stone, Sunset Dreamer, Joanne Dancing Gypsy, Equality in my America. And Chris Smith, he had to go earlier. Thank you for coming. Chloe, I'm sure she's listening. Mike Kelly, who else is out there? Oh, Bridget O'Higgins and Nicholas Burnett. Thank you for joining us tonight. Hope I didn't miss anybody, but anyway, thank you all for sharing an East Coast New Year's with us. And and it's been great. 157 episodes, and we're still coming at you. Remember, next week we'll be reviewing that book a little bit more, and some interesting stuff, like it says, great highlights and stuff like that. We're going to get through that, and we'll have more great stories from a new book, right? So more good stories. We can't wait. Happy New Year, Nina. Thank you for coming. Who is this? Crevice's Man 1. Happy New Year. I think for Cerveza Man. Sorry. I need better glasses. Cerveza Man. Happy New Year. I got a bad tongue. I can't say nothing. Cerveza Man. There you go. Happy New Year to you too. Happy New Year, Nina. Thank you. Thank you for a great year. And 2025, you heard it here, is going to be a good year. What did the cards say? Mostly sum it up.
Oh, that the Beaver said we gotta all work together to achieve our goal. Let's see.
Working together, bad as renewal.
Skunk is about having an honorable reputation as we go forward. Turkey is our giveaway, which means that if we have too much, we share it, but also we share the knowledge and honoring the future. Mountain Lion is about leadership. So as we go forward, we need to show our leadership, and that is rebirth. So that we need to kill off 2024 because it's already 2025. So it's past tense now. So, our rebirth is that we're already now officially into the new year. So, and then Badger is all about reputation and aggressiveness. So we need to make sure that we're aggressive, not to the point of being vicious, but we need to be aggressive in the new year, because if you're not aggressive in what you need, if you don't go out and plow the field, you can't plant and grow corn. So, you got to be aggressive and be able to, work on the projects, whatever's coming up for your new year. So stick with it, y'all. We got a new chance, a new start, take a deep breath. Here we are. We're already here.
Here we are. 3 minutes into it, I'm going to bed. New Year's is going to come and go, and I'll wake up. And all this is a state of mind, people. Time is time. It's all over the place. You can dream away and be in the future, dream away and be in the past. So just think of it that way. Time is only relevant to you and how you put your state of mind. So there you go.
But let me
go ahead.
Let me add this though. We have just come, for the winter solstice, and so already outside, I can tell that the grass is starting to grow. The earth knows that we are going into spring, even though we still got winter to go. The earth is now swung around and it's already paying attention to itself. Where, there are broadleaves growing in the yard that only grow at this time of the year. There are other things, the grasses. And so this is a rebirth in that, we are done with fall. And yes, we are into winter, but it means that we're also moving into spring. We've gone through the solstice. So there really is a physical change. that has happened to the earth because we've made it past, the solstice. So think of it that way. We're going into spring, even though we got some cold weather ahead of us. We're headed for spring, and those flowers and everything, and Easter, and so think about that. It's coming up.
Yep. Oh, I totally get that. You got a show tonight.
We'll see. I don't know what to chat about.
Okay.
maybe it's just Happy New Year and just
Oh yeah, there's always something.
Just chat. So, but yeah,
That's right.
I'm feeling a little tired earlier, but I made some coffee, and I think if I finish this cup and make another one, yeah, I might do it live.
Okay, sounds good.
Ahead. I believe you.
I do. It's a state of mind, people. If we let it get it down, we heard so many negative things. We let it get us down, it will be a bad year. So just think of a good year. Think of all the, remember, it's like the beginning of the show. We're still telling our story because we're alive and kicking, right? Yep. So take this year head on. Make your story. Make it your story, not somebody else's story. You got to be the main character in your story. Don't be the sidekick.
Be the with that, everybody. Like the mountain lion, but also Beaver's telling us as we work together to achieve these things.
You can work, you can see, and that's the thing. You can work together with somebody and not be the sidekick and be equals, but you don't want to give your power up to become a sidekick. That's when things, go really awry, because now you're living for somebody else. So,
for example, if we're building a house, okay, so we need plumbers, we need electricians, we need roofers, we need framers, we need finishers, we need sheetrock workers, we need, landscapers. So, but all these people work together to achieve a house that's built and finished, and so think of it like that. We're all building our future as we're building a new house, and each one of us has got a talent to build this structure, and so bring your talents, and and the faith that you have that I'm really good at bricklaying. I ain't worth a damn. I'm not a carpenter, but I'm really good bricklayer. So the teaching is in that if you're a good bricklayer, do that. Don't try to be a carpenter.
That's absolutely true. Remember, all you got, tomorrow starts a new year, and Nina will not be on Patreon. She will be joining you live on YouTube with her Hump Day message. And here you go. You can get her premiering at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Remember, that's Pacific Standard Time. So do adjust your clocks accordingly. And join her there. Maybe I'll even actually get home and have a listen to that message. Yay. We need a good New Year's message. Anyway, with that, everybody, remember, go out and do something nice for somebody. It's a new year. Start it off right. Be your own captain to your ship, your own writer of your main character of your, oh, no Hump Day tomorrow. Oh, special video. That's right. Special video tomorrow. Sorry. I forgot. I remember seeing the preview of that now. Sorry. That's but Hump Days will be on Wednesdays now and not on Patreon. There, I covered my butt. With that, everybody, go join David on his channel here in a little bit after he gets a cup of coffee, and let's Dole Duggar out. And remember, New Year's, celebrate. It's going to be a great year. Love you all, people. Remember, be the frequency you want to receive. Love you all. Peace, everybody.
Cheers.